Hi, I'm Steve Bell, founder of Lean4NGO, Lean and Agile Thinking for NGOs and Nonprofits. Welcome to the introduction of the free Chalktalk education and training video series designed specially for NGOs and nonprofits. I'm going to start by assuming you've already watched the 8-minute overview, which explains why I'm producing this series and the long-term goals. If you haven't, then I encourage you to do this. It can be found at the link shown here. In this introduction, I'll explain why you might want to spend your valuable time learning Lean and Agile practice in the first place. Here are the learning objectives for this introductory session, which I'll frame in the classic Lean thinking question: what is the problem we're trying to solve, and why is it important? I'll begin with a little background, then we'll explore in Lean and Agile terms who NGOs serve and what they want and need. I'll then share a brief overview of the continuous improvement and innovation journey, which we'll explore more deeply in the fundamentals sessions coming later. We'll reflect on why it's important to create a dynamic and flexible learning organization and culture in order to be effective in these changing times. And finally, we'll look briefly at several large-scale NGOs from a Lean and Agile perspective to help you understand the direction we're going with this Chalktalk series. In the orientation session, I provided a brief background so you understand who I am and why I'm developing this free Chalktalk series. Now I'll take a moment to go a little deeper into my experience to set the context for what I'm going to share with you in this introduction. During my 35-year career, I've had the privilege to help a number of NGOs learn Lean and Agile practice. I've also had the opportunity to perform many volunteer activities, both at home and in the field. For over 10 years, I was an active member of Rotary International, where I helped launch the Global Microcredit Action Group, and as a volunteer, I supported teams and projects around the world. Microcredit, also known as microfinance, helps individual borrowers with small amounts of capital that commercial banks can't provide, along with basic training and the continuous support of borrowing groups made up of friends and neighbors that huddle frequently to learn together and help solve each other's problems. I came to understand how microcredit demonstrates the best of what Lean and Agile thinking represents. These individual borrowers, on a global average of over 85% women, typically maintaining over 90% repayment rates, not only lead more productive and rewarding lives while providing for their families' health, education, and welfare, they form effective teams, learning to solve their problems while developing confidence, often becoming influencers and leaders in their communities. Inspired by these experiences, I created Lean4NGO in 2010. It's been growing at a steady state since then. Events of the past few years have made it clear that each of us must do what we can to help our planet and all the beings living on it. So I'm no longer working with for-profit companies, dedicating my energy to pass on what I've learned to help NGOs. As a first step, I'm launching the development of this free Chalktalk video education and training series to offer everyone in the NGO community, whether working in a corporate office or on the front lines, with simple ideas on how to do the things worth doing better, faster, and with less effort, while improving collaboration, learning, and most importantly, outcomes. So let's start with why this is important. Most everyone on the planet is keenly aware that suddenly the world has changed quickly and dramatically. We're now living in VUCA, where daily events are volatile, uncertain, complex, and often ambiguous. We all must learn to navigate in this new normal, and quickly. The greatest and most urgent challenges humanity and our planet face, represented here by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, cannot be solved by private industry, government, or technology alone. I believe it's the global NGO community that can orchestrate the efforts and expertise of everyone to focus on solutions to survive and thrive in the coming years. Like Dr. Stephen Covey used to say, begin with the end in mind. During the 35 years of my career, I have come to realize what Lean and Agile practice really offer. They're not about specific techniques or momentary improvements, but about developing people, learning and sharing what works, and adapting to change, creating an adaptive, sustainable learning organization that can survive and thrive in a VUCA future. What this means for NGOs is summed up in this familiar old saying about capability development. To understand why Lean and Agile thinking may be useful, first, each one of us must clearly understand the shared purpose behind our mission that unite and motivate our organization and give direction to our effort. So let's start with another classic question that Lean and Agile thinkers always ask. Who is the customer and what do they need? In the case of NGOs and nonprofits, I find it's better to say, who do we serve and what do they value? Here are my thoughts on this question. NGOs first serve their beneficiaries, helping them address crises of the moment while helping them develop capability to help themselves going forward. They also serve the partners they collaborate with, developing the capabilities of the employees and volunteers they engage in their efforts, and the funders that support them. You likely have your own ideas on who these key stakeholders may be. Most importantly, we must continuously engage with them and learn from and with them what they need and value, which is likely to change over time. So how do we best serve them? How do we produce the best outcomes in the shortest time with the least amount of effort and resources? To answer this question, I'll introduce the core concept of Lean and Agile, flow. Flow seems like an abstract idea at first, but please bear with me and I'll help you understand why this is important. Think about flow as a river, not resisting, flowing smoothly around obstructions. As the seasons and rainfall come and go, flow adapts naturally. Each of us may find their flow in different ways, through sports, artistic activities, or meaningful time with their families. What Lean and Agile do is help individuals and teams and organizations find their flow, delivering value to those they serve. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, a Hungarian psychologist who passed away just last year, spent his career defining and helping people find their flow. He's a wonderful writer and speaker, and here's how to find his TED Talks on creating flow in the learning tip you see below. Now let's explore briefly the origins of flow in a work setting. Lean practice originated in manufacturing in the 1950s and first applied the notion of flow to value delivery, the flow of work, and the flow of information that supports it. Lean practice has been evolving ever since, moving beyond manufacturing into all industries. It's become quite popular in healthcare, for example, and you'll find several Lean healthcare related articles and case studies in the Lean4NGO website library. In the 1990s, Agile emerged in the software development world, continuing what Lean started, emphasizing flow and quality through rapid innovation and development in conditions of uncertainty. Agile has continued to evolve beyond the world of technology development to generally address innovation, workflow, and project management on conditions of uncertainty and constant change. I want to call attention to the popular Agile workflow methods known as Kanban and Scrum, since many of you may have heard of these or related terms like product owner, backlog sprint, and pivot. Kanban is a simple tool that can help individuals and teams visualize and manage their daily work. handling the many demands on their time, skillfully dealing with overload, delays, and other problems, while collaborating with others to make informed prioritization and trade-off decisions. I've introduced a simple form of Kanban nearly every time I work with a new team, typically in a room full of people where everyone has a large sheet of paper, a pen, and a handful of colored sticky notes. It often has lasting impact. My first quick start training session coming soon will be on Kanban, where I'll present basic training and facilitate an interactive exercise so individuals and teams can start using this tool independently and start seeing immediate results. Scrum is a more elaborate workflow method that shares many characteristics of Kanban and is suited to managing projects, small ones as well as large ones involving many teams working together. I'll address Scrum in a future Chalktalk. Incidentally, the creator of Scrum, Jeff Sutherland, has been a friend of Lean4NGO since it began. He was also involved in microcredit, and the Grameen case study you'll see in Part 2 was featured in his book, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time. Now let's explore some basic Lean and Agile principles to understand how they can help you find your flow. First of all, value and quality are defined by the customer and delivery is requested or pulled by them, how and when they want it. Lean and Agile teams learn to focus first on quality, then speed, not the other way around. In the Fundamentals of Value Stream Flow session, you'll learn why that's important. Teams act in small, rapid iterations or sprints, giving them the ability to change or pivot quickly when needed. They learn to spot those things that get in the way of flow, what we call waste, eliminating them and preventing them from recurring. In doing so, they not only focus on quality of the outcomes they deliver to their customers, but in the quality of the processes that deliver them and how they adapt to changing conditions. They learn deeply, listening and engaging with their customers in solving problems and seizing opportunities. They're also informed by data and evidence, always seeking new ways to understand causality within each value stream, so they continuously experiment, innovate, improve, and learn. And they learn that clear, correct, complete flow of information is essential to sustainable workflow. Those organizations who deeply live these principles are more likely to be sustainable in the long term. Once you truly understand flow as an individual, a team, or an organization, it is no longer something you do. It becomes part of you, your behavior, and ultimately your culture. If you watched his YouTube I suggested earlier, then reflect on how Simon Sinek characterizes the spirit at Apple Corporation, for instance. We like to think about and visualize flow along value streams. Here's a simple picture of what that looks like. Agile emphasizes the first step, continuous innovation, product and service creation and development, while Lean emphasizes operational excellence in the delivery of those products and services. In a way of thinking, Agile is about doing new things, and Lean is about doing things well and in a sustainable way, continuously learning and adapting to changing conditions. The customer realizes the most value and the best experience when the value stream is a continuous feedback loop. The customer signals what they want, need, and when, and how they define quality, and the value stream teams engage in continuous experiments to solve problems and pursue new opportunities. Now, don't get me wrong. Lean is also concerned with doing new things, and Agile is concerned with doing things well. They can't really be separated. Lean and Agile are two sides of the same coin, and it's critical to understand how they work together. To bring this out of the realm of abstract principles and diagrams and into the real world, let's consider several large and very different global NGOs to help you understand the diversity and nature of value stream flow. Habitat for Humanity delivers homes to people. They manage the flow of materials, volunteers, funding, local labor, and community support. And they help homeowners with sustainable financing, which is a specific form of microfinance, by the way. Habitat for Humanity operates a variety of complex value streams in many different locations, with different supply chain challenges, building and safety code regulations, and funding issues. Habitat also operates over 900 Restore retail locations in the United States that accept donations of building materials that are reused in the local community. Doctors Without Borders responds to urgent, critical situations with doctors, nurses, and other volunteers setting up field hospitals and clinics along with medical equipment and supplies, coordinating with governments and other first responders and NGOs in the field, often under extreme conditions. Oxfam is a British-founded confederation of 21 independent affiliates around the world. Their value streams are highly diverse, focusing on topics such as the alleviation of global poverty, promoting fair trade practices, labor rights for women, and providing water sanitation to impoverished and war-torn areas. They also operate over 1,200 fair trade retail shops worldwide, and they're the largest retailer of second-hand books in Europe. As one of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's larger partners, CGIAR orchestrates scientific innovation in agriculture, food supplies, and water, working with many partners around the world. Their value streams span the life cycle from research and development through delivery. One of CGIAR's primary goals is to share what they learn to advance global science as quickly as possible in these urgent areas. So in collaboration with the Gates Foundation and its partner community, they're contributing to the development of the Gates Foundation's Global Access Data Analysis and Learning Platform, which amplifies and accelerates innovation across the global community. It's important to remember that a value stream is not only the flow of work, but the flow of information that supports the work. In this age of limitless data, powerful analytics, and machine learning to help us see the world in new ways, it's essential that NGOs develop skills to leverage data and analytics, used in an ethical manner, of course, to accelerate global progress. For our last example, in many ways redefining the global NGO landscape, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation coordinates and orchestrates, funds, monitors, and supports the collective efforts of a wide variety of NGOs, governments, and private industry around the world, tackling some of the world's toughest challenges. The Gates Foundation has deeply internalized lean and agile thinking and practices in their operations, with clear thinking, rigorous data-driven analysis, continuous experimentation, innovation, and improvement guiding everything they do. Now that we have a better context for what a value stream is, let's dig just a little deeper into the mechanics of flow of development and delivery to understand how it works. Look at the line below this value stream. It's wild and wiggly at the front end and smooths out later. This depicts the high degree of uncertainty at the beginning of the innovation cycle and the increasing consistency as products and services move into the delivery cycle. This overall life cycle repeats itself constantly as organizations learn to do things consistently while reinventing themselves at the same time. This table describes many of the key differences between development and operations. In terms of uncertainty, development deals with what we often call the fuzzy front end, where we're doing things that we've never done before, so uncertainty is high. As we move these new things into operations, they should become more repeatable and scalable, so uncertainty naturally decreases, but it doesn't go away entirely. Things are constantly changing, and there's always room for innovation and improvement in operations. Before Agile practice emerged, Because of the uncertainty, risk, and potential cost of doing new things, organizations usually try to rigorously control the projects with traditional, often heavy-handed project management, planning, budgeting, governance, and executive oversight. In most cases, this did not end well, and it often led to late, over-budget, failed projects that didn't do what the customer wanted. This often led to an environment of mistrust and dysfunction. Why? First of all, especially when doing something entirely new, the customer often doesn't know what they want or need in the first place, and if you force them to define their requirements at the beginning, they may enter into a fantasy land of ideas, dreams, and fuzzy visions that may not be practical or useful, leading you down the path to project failure. You simply can't plan what you don't know. You must use the scientific method, experimenting and learning your way safely towards the right solution. That's one of the key ideas behind both Agile and Lean thinking. The image you see here, plan, do, check, act, is the basic pattern for the scientific method and the foundation for all problem-solving approaches you'll learn in future Chalktalk sessions. We'll explore this further in the Fundamentals of Value Stream Flow session coming next, and I'll share a case study on this topic in that same Value Stream Flow session. Because the nature of development and operations are so different, some organizations create innovation teams separate from operations teams. These are often called skunk works, after Lockheed Martin's SR-71 Blackbird project. If you look carefully, you may see this little guy show himself during the first 10 minutes of the movie Top Gun Maverick. While there may be legitimate arguments for creating separate innovation teams in special cases, for most organizations, you might as well build a brick wall between development and operations, and this does not lead to quality, speed, or agility. The continuous flow of development through operations creates a rapid sense and response feedback loop with the customer, requiring tight integration, collaboration, and synchronization. Often, new ideas will be tested using experiments with a small number of active customers, validating the hypotheses that led to the new design while preparing for more general release. It's also a common practice for development team members to perform frontline support duties during initial release of a new product, service, or piece of software, not only to improve release quality and customer experience, but also to enhance feedback loops and identify opportunities to improve the process and the product or service for the next release. Since 2015 or so, the practice of DevOps emerged in the software industry, and I was very fortunate during my career to contribute to this body of knowledge while building connections between Dev and Ops and between the Agile and Lean communities. Along the way, we learned many valuable lessons. If you hear or read about DevOps, it's almost guaranteed that it will be in the context of software development and delivery. However, the principles of DevOps flow shown here apply in every situation and every industry, period. So I believe it's vitally important for NGOs to understand and apply these lessons because they must learn to create flow and deliver real solutions in constantly changing conditions. Here's a summary of themes pointing towards the how of Lean and Agile practice. Feel free to pause if you want and read this carefully, but don't get too lost in the details. This is just a short and very incomplete list, and these are still just ideas. We need to make it real so you can practice them. We'll be getting more into the how of this in the next fundamentals session. As we close the introduction, I'd like to share a story that may help you understand the dramatic impact these practices can have on an NGO. Just last week, I spoke with an old friend, a recently retired leader of the Lean community. He and a friend decided to introduce Lean thinking into their local community, and with the help of his Chamber of Commerce, they launched a series of workshops 2 hours a week for 7 weeks for small businesses, nonprofits, and local government agencies. A few weeks after the latest workshop series, one of the participants, a mental health clinic, shared their experience. After each workshop, this group of 3 staff members went back to the office where all 15 employees gathered from their organization in a room together and applied what they learned that week. They chose to improve the patient intake process, which begins at the time they first get contacted by someone seeking mental health services until they have their first meeting. Not the first treatment, just the first meeting. The state expects them to have this first meeting within 14 days, and they were missing this target about 30% of the time. In just a few weeks, with no additional outside assistance, they streamlined the patient intake process so they could have the first meeting in 1 day. This turned out to be too fast, since many clients needed a little time to arrange childcare or time off from work. So now they do it in 2 days. They achieved this with the same staff size and no new software. They just changed the way they thought about how they worked. To someone experiencing a mental health crisis, 1 day can make all the difference. As we're wrapping up the conversation, my friend said, and this is a quote, "These organizations just love that someone is interested in helping them become better." Most of us have probably heard the old saying, "Don't work harder, work smarter." While this feels inspiring to say, and it's difficult to argue with, there are 2 big problems with saying this. First of all, every coach will agree that it's usually not the people that are the problem, it's a broken process. There are a number of common reasons why processes don't work, and there are apparently limitless ways that they can go wrong and resist correction. We'll explore these in the fundamentals session coming next. For now, it's important to understand that people stuck in such processes know it, but they're often unable to do anything about it. Every day they try to get their work done the best they can under pressure. Some get cynical, some quit, and others just put their heads down and get through another day. You've probably been there yourself at one time in your life. Under such circumstances, to have someone urge you to work smarter can be insulting and demoralizing. And secondly, it's also completely useless to say this unless you can also show people how and provide them with the tools and support to get it done. The good news is that's exactly what happened at the mental health clinic I just told you about, and it's repeatable. For years, I've explored a similar idea with the Lean4NGO community, wondering how to create an approach to achieve this sort of result over a long distance at a large scale with little or no direct coaching interaction. Many veteran coaches felt it couldn't be done. Then the pandemic happened, and suddenly we all became more accustomed to remote work and Zoom calls, and we all saw the impact Khan Academy has achieved with virtual education in the remotest of areas. This led me to design and launch this Chalktalk series. The key lesson I learned from my friend's story about the mental health clinic is to find teams that are motivated and self-starting with a strong sense of purpose. Provide them with simple training and tools so they can practice and learn their way towards a few quick wins, and offer an ongoing learning path so they can use when they wish. In the Fundamentals of Value Stream Flow session coming next, I'm going to give you a closer look at this path forward. We're now at the close of the introduction session, and I hope you found this not only interesting, but useful enough that you're ready to proceed to the next session. Here's a roadmap of the journey ahead. But the term roadmap sounds too definitive. In Lean and Agile terms, this isn't a plan, it's a target condition that will continue to evolve as I develop and deploy these sessions and listen to your feedback. That's how we learn together. I hope you'll join me on this journey. please reach out with comments and suggestions. And again, if you like what you've just seen, please share it with others. Spread the word.